Today on the channel, I'm going to be breaking down my favorite ways to make camp coffee. I have been honing my craft over the last 2 decades as a guide, as a professional backpacker, and as somebody who lives out of my van and makes this kind of coffee just about every day. I thought I wanted to share with you my favorite tools, my favorite ways to make coffee. So I'm going to be talking about all of my favorites right here in the channel. Let's break it down, starting now. Let's get caffeinated! Whoop, whoop. Okay, I think I want to start by showing you one of my newer favorites, but it is the pour-over method. Now, a pour-over is a nice fancy barista way to make delicious coffee. Much like making coffee at home, hot water gets poured over your coffee grounds. As it seeps through, gravity naturally pulls that caffeine and all the goodness out of the coffee and into your cup. This is a fun, lightweight system from a company called Brew Trek, and they make this stainless steel pour over that I have been backpacking with, and it has made some really excellent coffee. Probably actually some of the best, most legit coffee that I've ever had while on a backpacking trip. But if I have the opportunity to go with a little bit more luxury, this pour over has been a game changer for me. That's a good cup of coffee. So the benefits of doing a cup of coffee like this is that it is a legit cup of coffee. Obviously, if you start with quality grounds and you go through the steps to make a pour over coffee like this, the result is going to be really, truly top-notch coffee. For some reason, I don't know why, but pour over coffee, maybe it's, the baristas out there could really speak to why, but it's kind of like, there's a reason why the Portlanders of the world get pour over coffee versus just your regular drip coffee out of a, Mr. Coffee thing from your home. This is 10 times better. I don't know why, but it just really is fantastic. Genuinely stellar coffee. The next coffee that I want to highlight is the Aeropress. Now, there may be a number of you out there that are familiar with Aeropress, and there might be a lot of you that have never heard of the Aeropress before. The Aeropress is a really interesting tool because it basically mimics an espresso machine where you put your coffee grounds in here, followed by the boiling water. There's a filter. You put this plunger in, and then you're able to add pressure to the system and force that hot water through the coffee grounds, getting more out of the coffee grounds than in a traditional kind of gravity-fed system. Not quite on the level of a full-on espresso machine, but pretty handy. So if you live in a van or you just like making, one solid cup of coffee at home, then the Aeropress is pretty stellar. So let's brew up a cup and get this party started. The Aeropress has been one of my favorite ways to make coffee in the van, especially for the last 2 years. It's really handy. I have done backpacking with it, but ultimately it's kind of not the most backpacking suited situation. It's just a little bit cumbersome and it's bigger than some of the other systems, but the resulting coffee is delicious. So if you are looking for a good, especially for a home or a camp setup, the Aeropress is a really nice way to go. Let's change it up a little bit. Okay, so the next thing that I want to review and talk about is the French press style of making coffee. So again, I've got this fancy French press maker here, and this is actually a really cool system that I really like. Oh, water's done. This is a system that I really like because a lot of French presses, very standard, they are a pain in the butt to clean. And one of the benefits of this system is you have a detachable bottom, which all of the coffee grounds will end up going in here. And that is much easier to clean than this long thing if you weren't able to take that off. So one of the things that I can do is I can just pour it straight into this bottom part here. Now this is a great system for actually just making more coffee. So if I wanted to be making enough coffee for at least 2 people, this is the way to go. Or if I know that I want to be drinking like 3 cups of coffee, because a lot of times when you're backpacking or camping, you're pretty much only making 1 cup at a time. Once I've brewed up my mug of coffee, or this bottle essentially, container, it's going to be hot for a long time. So that's also super nice. This cup of coffee is quite good, but I still have a preference for some of the other methods, the pour over and the Aeropress, in terms of actual taste. But the benefit is it's an easy way to make a larger quantity of coffee, especially if you're camping with a group where you want to brew it in the morning. You're first to get up, and then somebody else is going to be getting up in like half an hour. You can have hot coffee waiting for them later just by letting it sit in this double-walled insulated container. So that is pretty cool. The biggest advantage I think to this system too is just the ease of cleanup. So you can just unscrew this. I still have a bit of coffee, so I'm not going to unscrew it right now. But I can unscrew that, and I can dump my coffee grounds pretty easy, scoop them out, wash just this bottom, and I'm not having to mess with this big thing that I'm really washing and taking care of. So far, my out of the three methods, this is probably my third favorite. However, it's still a nice cup of coffee. Okay, let's keep this train rolling. My next way to make coffee is a classic for me. It is Alpine Start. This is a simple, ultra simple solution for, especially good for backpacking. Now, most of this, you know, like the Starbucks Vias, most things like a Starbucks Via or something like this really aren't that exciting. But this one, the Alpine Start version, I find to be exceptional. And it's just as easy as it gets. Now, why would you not want to use this? Because they come in single serving packets that can be extra wasteful for backpacking, but it is the lightest and easiest way to make coffee. And it actually tastes like real coffee. So I'm a fan. When I'm backpacking, this has been one of my go-tos for the last couple of years. So let's brew up a cup and see how it tastes. Okay, so one of the things that I've found is if you pour the coffee grounds in first before the hot water, it's much more effective. What'll happen is the hot water will steam, and if you then try to add that coffee powder to steaming water, it will actually make it clump up and stay inside that tube. And it's just not pretty, and it's, you know, a lot harder than just putting the coffee grounds in first, but here we go, here's a sip. Honestly, it's pretty dang good coffee. I've been drinking this for a lot of years, and in terms of easy instant coffee, it's a win. It's still not as good of a cup of coffee as some of the other methods. So if you're just going off of pure best cup of coffee, this is probably going to be around third or fourth on my list. But once you factor in ease, well, it's pretty near the top. For those of you who are very serious about your coffee, the Nano Presto is something you might want to consider. This makes a single shot of actual espresso. So you can pump it, create adequate pressure, and it actually makes an espresso shot. So I have used it, and it's kind of a fun little machine. So let's make some espresso. Here is the Nano Presto espresso shot. I mean, it tastes like espresso. There's a nice crema to it, and when you pump it, it actually generates a good bit of pressure. So it actually forces the hot water through the beans. A high pressure rate, which adds to the crema, gets more out of the bean. That's pretty good. The only downside of this is the quantity. So if you are an espresso drinker, then it's perfect for you. However, if you just want a cup of coffee, you know, to drink more liquid, then it might not be for you. So the Percolator is actually a really cool and a more traditional way to make coffee. So this is the old style of coffee. And if you, you know, just have been a camper for a long time, then you probably are familiar with a system like this. This one is from Camp Chef. This needs to boil for about 5 minutes before it's ready to drink. I'm watching for this to turn into a nice, delicious brown. It's a light color right now. You can see it. It'll get darker as it continues to boil. And then it's ready to drink. Something that I like when I just have this Percolator system in a big camp bin. So especially before I had the van and I was, you know, doing a lot of camping out of the back of my car, this was a pretty fun way to make coffee. Great way to make a larger batch of coffee if you're gonna be making coffee for 3 or 4 people. that's a nice system for you. But it does require the most amount of fuel and the most setup, so it's really not suited for backpacking, of course, but it might be fine if you're, you know, doing the van life or just car camping or things like that. So I wanted to show you how to make percolated coffee there. All right, my friends, this is all of the ways that I make coffee when I'm camping. So if I were to rank these in terms of best to worst, well, it would obviously depend on if I'm backpacking or camping. If my top, just in terms of pure taste, my winners are the pour over and the Aeropress. So just in terms of pure taste and enjoyability of the cup of coffee, my two top winners are the Brew Trek pour over and the Aeropress. It's its own type of making coffee. The coffee is just so good out of those. And then the next would actually be probably my Percolator, the French press, and then the espresso maker. But if I'm backpacking, my choice is just, you know, especially if I'm doing a lot of miles on the trail, then nothing beats the Alpine Starts and the simplicity and ease of those. So what are your go-to cups of coffee? I'd love to hear from you. How would you rank these? Hit me up in the comments below with your favorite, and you know, I might just randomly pick somebody to send them a coffee maker. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. I'm not gonna sleep tonight because I have had like 6 cups of coffee now making this video. So good luck to me and good luck to Christy and Kovu because it's gonna be a rough one out there. All right, sayonara from my van. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Hainsmith, Backpacking TV. I'll see you later.